There was a time when Christy McNicol was everywhere. Her smile, her warmth, her raw emotion. She was the kind of actress who didn't just play a role, she lived it. In the 1970s and 80s, Shaw isn't just Hollywood's favorite teenager. She was its beating heart. But then at the height of her fame, she disappeared. No scandal, no farewell, just silence. For decades, no one really knew what had happened to her until now. A star is born. Christy McNicol was born on September 11, 1962 in Los Angeles, California, a city built on dreams. Though her family's life was far from glamorous, she grew up in a modest home with her mother Carolyn and older brother Jimmy. Her father left when she was young, leaving Carolyn to hold the family together through sheer determination. Carolyn worked tirelessly as a secretary, a makeup saleswoman, even taking extra roles in low-budget films, anything that would help pay rent and keep food on the table. Survival, not stardom, was the McNichols' daily goal. It was on one of those film sets that fate intervened. Carolyn, unable to afford a babysitter, brought Christy and Jimmy along with her while working as a background extra. A crew member happened to notice the children's bright personalities and told Carolyn they'd be great for commercials. It was a passing remark that opened a door no one in the family had ever imagined. Soon, both kids were auditioning for television spots, toothpaste, cereal, soft drinks, and to everyone's surprise, they started getting them. Jimmy was charming, easygoing, and quickly found his rhythm. But Christy, she was different. She had a spark that was hard to describe, a mix of innocence and depth that made people pay attention. Casting directors noticed her emotional intelligence, the way her expressions carried both light and sadness. Even at 10 years old, she didn't just perform, she felt. By the mid-1970s, Christy was already working steadily in guest roles on popular shows like Apple's Way and Star and Hutch. Then in 1976 came the role that would change everything, Letitia Butter Lawrence on ABC's acclaimed drama Family. She was only 13 when she began filming, but her portrayal was nothing short of extraordinary. The show explored real-life issues like divorce, adolescence, and identity, and Butter became its emotional center. Unlike the perfect sitcom kids of the era, Butter was complex, sensitive, opinionated, sometimes lost. Christy played her not as a character, but as an extension of herself. Critics praised her maturity and authenticity. She earned 3 consecutive Emmy nominations for Best Supporting Actress and won twice in 1977 and 1979, an astonishing achievement for someone barely old enough to drive fans adored her. She was on magazine covers, appearing on talk shows, and being hailed as America's little sister, yet fame came with a cost. Behind the camera, Christy's life was far less stable. Her mother managed her career, but also relied on her income to support the family. Christy once said, "I felt like the grown-up in the house. My mom was the child." That emotional role reversal took its toll. While other teenagers worried about school dances, Christy worried about contracts, lines, and staying professional. Her days were filled with filming, publicity, and responsibility, leaving no room for normal teenage life. By the time Family ended in 1980, Christy McNicol had already achieved more than most actors ever would. She was adored, respected, and undeniably talented. Yet deep down she felt exhausted and incomplete. The little girl from Los Angeles had given the world everything it wanted. What she didn't realize yet was that Hollywood would soon take everything it could in return. Fame comes with a price. When Family ended in 1980, Christy McNicol was only 18 years old, but she already carried the fatigue of someone who had lived 2 lifetimes. She had been on set since childhood, performing for cameras when most kids were still learning who they were. Hollywood saw her not as a teenager, but as a reliable professional, someone who could deliver emotion on cue. So when Family wrapped, there was no pause, no chance to rest. Offers flooded in, and Christy said yes to all of them. That same year, she starred opposite Tatum O'Neal in Little Darlings, a film about 2 girls from opposite worlds making a daring bet at summer camp. It wasn't just another teen movie. It was a raw look at adolescence and the confusion that comes with it. Christy's performance as Angel Bright-Eyed, a street-smart girl hiding deep vulnerability, was mesmerizing. Critics praised her naturalism, and Roger Ebert wrote that her performance made people want to know what she'd do next. The movie turned her into a cultural phenomenon. Teen magazines couldn't get enough of her. She was America's favorite rebel, confident, independent, yet achingly real. But fame, as always, came with a cost. That same year, she appeared in The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia alongside Dennis Quaid and Mark Hamill, earning one of the highest salaries ever paid to a teenage actress. In 1981, she took on another heavy role in Neil Simon's Only When I Laugh, playing the daughter of a recovering alcoholic. The film earned her a Golden Globe nomination and critical acclaim. On the outside, Christie's career looked unstoppable. On the inside, she was unraveling. She later confessed that she didn't know how to say no. Not to directors, producers, or even to her mother. Hollywood demanded constant output, and Christie, desperate to please everyone, complied before I could even say yes or no, she recalled. I'd be on a plane to a new set. What she didn't realize was that every yes was chipping away at her health and peace of mind. She was a teenager trapped in an adult's world, a Guild star expected to perform endlessly without complaint. By 1982, the cracks began to show. Her next project, The Pirate Movie, was a light-hearted musical parody that flopped with critics. She was even nominated for a Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Actress. A cruel twist for someone who had just been celebrated as Hollywood's most promising young performer. But the problem wasn't the movie. It was everything behind it. The endless pressure, sleepless nights, and constant anxiety were eating her alive. In 1984, Christie accepted what seemed like a dream role in Just the Way You Are, a romantic drama shot in the French Alps. Her character was a musician with a disability, learning to accept herself, a story that ironically paralleled Christie's own struggles. But then her mental health had reached its breaking point. She suffered panic attacks, nightmares, and extreme weight loss. Her friends and family noticed she was disappearing, not just physically, but emotionally. When she begged for help, her team told her to push through. Don't worry, they said. We'll get through it. The breaking point. After returning from France, Christy McNicol was no longer the same. Doctors told her she was dealing with exhaustion, anxiety, and deep emotional trauma, the kind that builds up after years of pretending everything is fine. For someone who had grown up being the strong one, that diagnosis felt like failure. The studio behind Just the Way You Are tried to spin the story, calling it a chemical imbalance. But tabloids weren't kind. They painted her as unstable, a fallen child star who couldn't handle success. In truth, she was trying to save herself. It would have been easier to kick an addiction, she later said, than go through the years of hell that I did. She eventually returned to finish the film, but the light in her eyes had dimmed. When the movie was released in 1984, audiences saw a fragile beauty on screen, not realizing that the pain they felt in her performance was real. For a while, Christie tried to rebuild her career. She appeared in Dream Lover, You Can't Hurry Love, and The Forgotten One. But their industry had moved on, and so had she. Fame had once been her dream, but now it felt like a prison. Behind closed doors, she battled insomnia, mood swings, and overwhelming sadness, symptoms that doctors would later identify as bipolar disorder. It was her brother, Jimmy McNicol, who kept her grounded through those years. They had started their careers together, and when Christie's world collapsed, he didn't leave his side. She wasn't just me sister, Jimmy said later. She was my kid, my best friend. He moved in with her, cooking, cleaning, and helping her navigate the dark days. For Christie, it was the first time someone was taking care of her, not the other way around. By the mid-1980s, she had become a ghost in Hollywood. The smiling teenager from Family was gone, replaced by a woman trying to understand who she was when the cameras weren't rolling. And though she would soon return to TV, her heart would never fully belong to Hollywood again. The return and the goodbye. In 1988, NBC offered Christie something she hadn't had in years: stability. The show was Empty Nest, a spin-off of The Golden Girls. She played Barbara Weston, a strong but sensitive police officer living with her widowed father. It wasn't heavy drama like Family, but it gave her a place to belong. For the first time in a long while, she was surrounded by laughter, friends, and a supportive crew. Fans were thrilled they'd missed her. Over the next few years, Empty Nest became a hit, running alongside the Golden Girls on Saturday nights. Viewers fell in love with Christy all over again, but inside she was still struggling. The same emotional waves that had wrecked her years earlier were returning. Some days she couldn't sleep. Other days she couldn't stop crying. In 1992, during the show's 5th season, Christy made a decision that stunned everyone. Without fanfare or explanation, she walked away. Her publicist said she was leaving for health reasons, but the truth didn't come out until nearly a decade later. In 2001, Christy revealed that she had been suffering from manic depression, now known as bipolar disorder. "I didn't want to talk about it at the time," she explained. "It was very private, but now I want to tell people the truth." Her honesty broke barriers. In an era when mental illness was still taboo, Christy's confession was an act of quiet courage. She wanted others to know they weren't alone, especially those who, like her, felt trapped between fame and fragility. She returned briefly for the Empty Nest finale in 1995, giving fans a proper goodbye. After that, she only lent her voice to a few animated shows, Extreme Ghostbusters in 1997 and Invasion America in 1998, and then she was gone again.